Should you buy a car in Singapore? The answer may surprise you. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Car. I'm Utkarsh. Singapore is the country where simply the permission to keep a car for 10 years can cost up to $100,000. And this is before you add in punitive import taxes, wealth tax resembling road tax, dealer margins. So cars are expensive. On the other side, you have one of the world's best public transport systems, efficient, connected, incredibly cost effective. So how then can you ever justify buying a car in Singapore? Well, you can under some qualifying conditions, and that's what we're going to get into. But let's get one thing straight off the bat. Owning a car will never make sense financially versus the alternative means of transport, including taking cabs. So, quick illustration before we get into the reasons why you can consider buying a car. Say you take a cab 5 times a week, a $20 cab. That's a reasonable cab, gets you great distance. So you take a $20 cab 5 times a week. Let's assume you spend 45 weeks in the country, so that's you can do the math on that, how many cab rides that is. That's about $9,000 a year in cabs. Add in 500 public transport journeys at $2, right? 500 is a lot more than one a day. So you've got another $1,000. So you're at $10,000 a year. $10,000 a year is not enough to get you a car. So you're taking a cab 5 times a week, you're using public transport every day, and still, $10,000 is perhaps half the price of owning a car, because the cost of owning a car in Singapore is about $15,000 to $20,000 to begin with, before you add in fuel and parking. So get that out of the way. It's not going to make financial sense. But there are 3 or 4 circumstances that you can justify having a car over the public transport and taxis. Reason number 1, the main reason: kids, pets, infirm family members. This is the main logical reason to own a car in Singapore. Regardless of the convenience of the bus or the train, the MRT, or the app on your phone that gets a cab, nothing beats having the convenience of your vehicle at crunch time. It'll save you the hassle of trying to find a cab in the rain. It's practically impossible, honestly. The moment that really matters, there's a value you cannot quantify, that your aging parent may not have to stand when it's difficult for them, and they can just get into a car. These things are important. And for pets, you do have pet-friendly cabs, but then they usually come with a lot of conditions, and pets are banned from public transport. So again, can you put a price on being able to put 2 dogs in your car and go to Sentosa East Coast Park and have fun, as I do? Difficult to put a price on that, or maybe you can. So that's the main reason, right? Kids, dropping your kids to school, having a car, convenience of having all your stuff with you in the car, taking care of infirm family members, and of course pets. Reason number 2, job nature. Now, let's begin this with an interesting anecdote. So me and my friend, we both joined Procter & Gamble at the beginning of our careers. This was, 15 years ago. I joined the marketing function. He had a choice between sales and finance. He chose sales, not because he thought of himself as the next Harvey Specter, the ultimate closer, but sales function in Singapore came with an incredible perk. It came with a company car. Now, this story illustrates 2 things. 1, how aspirational car ownership is in Singapore, that one would make a career decision based on getting a car. I will not lie, I was also tempted to join sales, but luckily I stuck on to marketing. And secondly, even typical car-heavy professions like sales, they justify economically to have a car in Singapore. There's only a tiny handful of professions that you can justify having a car in Singapore. One good example, again, drawing from life, is my wife, who's a realtor, real estate agent here in Singapore. She sells a lot of different properties, often very expensive ones, and often she ferries around a lot of clients here and there. The math for her, for once, is rather compelling, because she would be doing 5 to 6 viewings a day all across Singapore. West corner, east corner. It's only 40 kilometers each direction, but cab rides can add up, right? We did the math on it. If she was to take a cab between all of her viewings, it would cost her about $150 a day. And there's an unmeasurable aspect of having the convenience of your car, being fresh everywhere, or just a happy client who's avoiding Singapore's heat in a nice, comfortable Mercedes E-Class, Germany's taxi of choice. Add to that diesel fuel economy in my wife's car. It's got the Mercedes OM654 engine. Oh, sorry, I just went nerdy on you. It's an E220D, one of the most popular diesel engines in Europe. So $150 a day on on cabs versus maybe $10-15 a day on diesel, right? And the unmeasurable part of happy clients. It adds a lot of value to my wife's practice. But this scenario is also just an exception, not a rule, because you would need a certain size of business, right? I told you, cars in Singapore are costing about $15,000 to $20,000 a year before cost of diesel or petrol or parking. So you need to have a real estate practice that can justify $20,000 a year to spend on your vehicle before you can consider having a car, right? So something to note. Third reason to have a car in Singapore: insanity. Myself. There's a particular disease that affects a lot of people. It's called the thrill of driving. Um, why would you want to pilot this multi-ton machine with significant liability, so much cost? But that's what a lot of us have convinced ourselves is the essence of life. And if you are in that small percentage like me, there is no getting convinced out of it. I mean, I raced to get a driver's license the moment I turned 18, and 20 years later, there are no signs of slowing down. I've been through as many cars. You have seen my entire car stories here on my channel. Luckily, there are ways and means to fund this irrational desire, even in Singapore. And maybe out of necessity, I have developed a very, very deep understanding of the Singapore market, which combined with my deeper obsession of cars in general, helps me identify gaps, find opportunities in consumer perception pricing, and save thousands of dollars. I mean, if I didn't know what I was doing, I would probably be bankrupt right now, but I'm not, right? So that's where the knowledge comes in to fund this irrational desire, even though it makes no sense. So this is what I have been doing since I bought my first car in Singapore in 2011, and I've been through 15 cars, including the 3 bought for my wife over the years. My friends think I'm a touch mad. Perhaps I am, but they have benefited from my obsession. This is something that I've been doing, helping everybody out. And that is the reason why I now decided to formalize this and offer this private consulting that I do with the Ministry of Car, where you get an incredibly high ROI 2 hours. If you need to buy a car, you understand the market, and we develop a solution for you, and we develop a shortlist for you. And hopefully that 2 hours saves you thousands of dollars. Okay, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.